Hey there, y'all, and welcome to the kitchen. Today's shortcut supper is my Southwest chicken casserole, and this one is so shortcut that you almost don't even have to chop anything. So let's get right into it. First things first, I've got a pot of water coming up to a boil here. We're going to boil some egg noodles. We're really going to put these pieces together separately and then land them in our dish, so by the time the casserole goes in the oven, there's almost nothing that has to happen except getting a nice brown and bubbly top. So I've got some water coming up to a boil. I'm using egg noodles today for our casserole because I have found in my house, if I use an egg noodle in something, nobody is turning it down. So this is the pasta of choice for us, but you can use any short pasta that you have on hand. I'm also going to use a fun find I found in the freezer section, but you can use any rotisserie chicken. This is rotisserie chicken strips that I found in the freezer section. I've thawed them out a little bit because they're in bigger strips and we're going to chop them down a little bit, but they're pre-seasoned just like a rotisserie chicken does, comes right out of your deli section of your grocery store. So if you want to grab a rotisserie chicken, we're going to use about 3 cups of those, but we're just going to pull out those strips, chop them up, and put them into our saute pan with all of our veggies. I also have some of my favorite no chop ingredients. I've got my onions that I keep in the freezer. We're going to use about half a bag of this, and I also have some bell peppers on hand, so we don't even have to chop that. Also have some jarred garlic, because what do I make without garlic in it? Almost nothing. Some taco seasoning and a few canned things. We've got some cream of celery. This is an interesting one. You can use cream of chicken, but I love the little herby note or vegetable note in the cream of celery. It just really kind of lightens up this rich and creamy dish for me. A cup of sour cream, and then obviously we've got some diced green chilies and tomatoes going in this because this is Southwest, and corn. You could also use corn out of the freezer section, but I have canned today. Boxed stock and pre-shredded cheese are what's going to round this out, and then our topper. You have to have the perfect topping for a good casserole. We're going to use these French fried onions that you normally use for green bean casserole. They make a delicious top. I'm going to show you how to make them perfectly coating the top of your casserole every time with that oniony flavor. So let's get into this. So my water, like I said, is coming up to a boil. Really, while everything is getting each part ready, this is going to be going while this is going, and we're going to mix it together, and then a few minutes, like I said, in the oven is all it's going to take. So this is coming up to a boil. I started that first, and I always like to tell you, just like I tell my students in Mama Whitten's kitchen when they're teenagers and they're starting out of the gate, if you want your water to boil faster, or if you want anything to cook faster, put a lid on it. Anytime that you have a lid on your pot, you have trapped in that heat, and it's going to come up to temperature a lot faster for you. So they say a watched pot never boils. So don't look at it, just put a lid on it, and it'll come up to temperature a lot faster for you. So I'm going to build my casserole base, though, in my big saute pan here. I just have this giant skillet. That's what we're going to just assemble everything in. So grab your biggest one, and that's what you'll need. So I'm going to start in with a little bit of butter. You could absolutely use some olive oil or whatever neutral oil you keep. I'm going to move my casserole dish for just a minute. Anytime we start with butter, it's just basically we're starting with a little extra flavor. I use salted butter. So we're going to get a little bit of that and get some heat into our pan, a couple tablespoons. This is just to soften up our onions and our peppers and get our chicken and all of our sauce made. So I'm going to get some heat underneath this pan. And then, like I said, there's almost no chopping, but we are going to break down this rotisserie chicken. If I had a regular rotisserie chicken like you get out of the grocery store, we would just shred that right up. But like I said, this comes in some strips. It's semi-thawed, semi-soft, but a little bit frozen. And we're going to do about 3 cups of chicken. And I'm just going to chop these up into bite-sized pieces. My family absolutely loves this flavor in rotisserie chicken. So when I found this in the freezer section, I was like, literally winter chicken dinner. Okay, so we're going to chop up about 3 cups of that. As soon as my butter is melted, I'm going to get in about a cup of onions and a cup of bell pepper, and those are going to start softening down. This is about 2 cups. This is the equivalent of 1 whole onion. So I'm going to use the other half of this in another recipe another day. Really, really good to have on hand though. So like I said, this is already semi-thawed. I'm just going to chop it down just a little bit, and then we're going to be done with our knife for the day. It's amazing, isn't it? All right, just chop into bite-sized pieces. This is fully cooked like a regular rotisserie chicken. So what I'm just doing here is I'm going to make my sauce and my vegetable base, and we're going to throw this in at the end to kind of finish coming up to temperature. It'll get a little browning on it just to give it a little bit more flavor. But all in all, this is a really great product. I have actually used this in quesadillas on a quick weeknight. You can use it in any kind of casserole, soups, or stews. You can just really throw together a quick like chicken enchilada soup. We love doing that. This is great for that. So, all right, breaking it down into bite-sized pieces is all we're doing. Got my big sharp knife here. I always say if your knife isn't sharp enough, then you're going to cry more over your onions, cry more over all of your stuff. So make sure you've got yourself a good sharp knife to get the job done. I always link this below because I love that mine comes with a cover because I travel with mine. I'm one of those people. But I also love that it comes with a cover because I have little ones and they are getting to the age where they like to help in the kitchen. And they also like to help do dishes, which is amazing. But I don't want them reaching into my big sharp knives without them being covered up. Okay, last one. That was a little more frozen than the rest of the buddies. This has started to get really good and melty. So I'm going to go ahead and get in some onions. Like I said, this is about 2 cups. I'm going to use half of this bag. They also make onions and peppers mixed. So if you find that in your freezer section, you can use that. Stand back, it will pop just a little bit as soon as it gets in there. All right, move that around a little bit in our pan. Whenever I tell people about the frozen onions in the freezer section, and they've learned about it for the first time, I can't tell you how many mamas have looked at me and said, "What? You're telling me I don't have to chop onions?" And I said, "Yes, you don't have to chop onions." So about a cup of each of those. It's one of those things, I've actually been in kitchens with other adults that are like close to my age, and they're like, "What can I do to help you?" And I'll put them on the onion chopping or the pepper chopping or whatever. And I'll notice they're like really kind of taking a long time getting through it. And it's amazing how many people just don't know how the method to chop things and actually get it done in a quick manner. But if you're not one that wants to even learn, they have you rescued in the freezer section. Okay, so onions and peppers, and they're getting soft. I'm going to get my chicken in here so it can start getting some color on here. This is a great way to stretch $1 too, because you can use a lot less chicken and feed the whole family if you have it in the casserole form, or if you have it like in a soup form or something like that, because it stretches with all the pasta and all the veggies and all that, so you end up getting a little bit farther with it, feeding more people for less money. All right, I'm going to go in with a tablespoon of this garlic here. If you're using a clove of garlic, you want to use 2 of those for about a tablespoon. And like I said, we are just really getting some translucent color on our veggies and a little bit of cook through on our chicken. Now my seasoning for this, because this is Southwest, we are going to put in a little taco seasoning. I typically make mine, and you can find my recipe. It's very easy. It's 2 tablespoons each of cumin, chili powder, garlic powder, onion powder, salt, and then 1 tablespoon of oregano if you want a herby something in there. But I just wanted to show you the shortest of the shortcut way. So we're going to use taco seasoning today. And we're going to cut that open because I don't want to have to fight with him. This is about 1/4 cup of seasoning in here. Just if you use homemade, so you'll know how much you need. And this is going to make a lot because we're adding corn to this. We're adding some tomatoes in. That's just going to start to get some yummy seasoning flavor. Anytime you season something, season it early on because the flavor in your seasoning packets needs to be woken up with the heat. So if you get a lot of liquid or whatever in your pan and you like want to put your seasonings in at the end, it's going to take more seasoning to get to that flavor because it's going into it later in the game. when you put it in at the beginning, it hits that high heat, it gets in there, and it gets caramelized almost on the outside of your food. So that really concentrates the flavor of your seasonings, and a little goes a lot longer of a way that way. Awesome. Now, beautiful. This is going to have like this beautiful, nice orangey color with the flecks of green from the bell pepper. Delicious. Okay, the next thing that's going to go in is some corn and some Rotel. I'm going to drain my corn, but I'm going to keep the liquid in my Rotel because that's one of the liquids that I actually want in here to season the casserole itself. The diced green chilies and tomatoes have this really awesome like kick to it that you can't get in anything else. So I just really love the flavor it offers to these kind of dishes. I'm telling you, this is coming together super fast. I think my filling is actually going to be waiting on my pasta, but it's okay. We're doing our best. I'm going to go ahead and drain my corn. And if you have frozen corn, obviously you won't have to do this step. You'll just go in straight to the whole mix with your bag of frozen corn. You won't have to thaw it. You don't have to do any of that. And then get my Rotel in here. And stir that all together. I'm telling you, this one is so fast and it's so delicious. Chicken casserole never disappoints my family, whether it's chicken pot pie, chicken and rice. I did a really good chicken noodle casserole last night that was just one that I had never done before. And I kind of did like a ranch base. My husband looked at me. He has the look when we've done something new and he wants to keep it in the repertoire. He goes, "Oh, babe." Oh, and so I got the head nod last night on that casserole that I made last night with the ranch. So we'll have to make that together another day. But yes, chicken casseroles save the day on any busy weeknight while making everybody happy. Nobody gets upset about a chicken casserole. Even the picky ones, they end up picking out what they like, which is most of probably the pasta anyway. Okay, so I've got my chicken stock on hand here. I don't want to put a ton in right now because we don't want to make it too loosey-goosey. And I'm also going to keep a little bit of my pasta water after I drain my pasta because that is what helps your pasta stick to your saucy ingredients once it's all mixed together. But I am going to put a little bit of chicken stock in here just to give this room to groove, and then I can turn my heat back up. I had to dial it back down a notch. I'm going to go in with about a cup of stock here. If you have water, you can use chicken bouillon with your water, and that works perfectly fine. But you just need a cup of liquid or so to get the job done. All right, I'm going to stir this together. In just a few minutes, we're going to put in our creamy ingredients, but I do want this to get a little bit cooked down and our onions to get a little more tender first. So I'm going to bring this pasta water to a boil, let this cook down, and I'll be right back to show you how to put it all together. Okay, so my sauce has reduced nicely for about 4 or 5 minutes and my water is boiling. So I'm going to salt my pasta water like the ocean. You want to make sure that your pasta holds its own in the dish and has flavor. And your first and most important opportunity to do that is when it's in the cooking water. So I'm going to put a generous few tablespoons of salt into my pasta water, and then I'm going to get my pasta cooking. Now, I'm not going to have to cook this all the way through. I think just to al dente is about 8 or 9 minutes. We're going to get this started, and I'm not going to even fight with it. I give up. We're going to get this started, and we're going to cook it about 3/4 of the way through, but then we're going to drain it and combine it with everything in our casserole dish, and it's going to continue to cook with our sauce. So when it has a little extra cooking left to go, it will absorb that sauce a little bit better. So in our pasta goes, and we're going to let it go for a few minutes under completely cooked. So if I would say 9 minutes would be done, so we're going to let it go about 5 to 6 minutes. Okay, stir that up as soon as it gets in there. That's another important tip. I actually had one of my own children ask me a question the other day in the kitchen, and I looked at him and I said, "Well, have you ever seen Mama do that?" He said, do I need to put oil in this pasta water? And I said, buddy, have you ever seen Mama put oil in the pasta water? He said, well, no. So then you don't need to be doing it. We don't put oil in our pasta water, and it's very simple because, number one, it keeps the salt from absorbing into the pasta because it coats the outside of the pasta, but it also doesn't do anything to keep it from sticking to each other because the pasta water being hot enough and you stirring your pasta is going to actually do that for you. Don't put oil in your pasta water. It's a waste of oil, and it prohibits the pasta from getting good and salty in there. Okay, so I've turned my heat down to low on here, and we're going to get in some creamy elements. Like I said, I have cream of celery soup. You can absolutely do chicken. You can do, I think there's a cream of chicken with herbs that I absolutely love for certain dishes. That's another one I've got a shortcut supper that I actually use, cream of chicken with herbs. It's a really good one. It's chicken and dumpling soup. My in-laws love that one. I'll just share that with you soon. But this cream of celery is one I like to use. I often use this in my potato soup recipe, but I like it because it's a little bit lighter and it kind of adds another vegetable layer to this in flavor. So it's a really good one in here. I think it pairs well with the sour cream to give that nice creamy layer without being too incredibly heavy. And now I'm going to go in with a cup of sour cream. This is a 16-ounce carton, so I'm going to use half of this, 8 ounces. And like everything else, I eyeball this. You can use a cup measure if you want to, but this is, in my mind, this is a cup, so it's a cup. All right. There's certain things I keep in my kitchen that I measure, and I'm like, that's a cup, whether it's a cup or not. I mean, a cup. I always say, though, to my cooking students and my mamas, everybody, if you've got a mason jar, you do have a measuring cup. So obviously, you know, you've got a quart mason jar, that's going to be 4 cups of liquid, and you can eyeball it from there. If you've got a pint, that's 2. All right, I'm getting that stirred in, and I've also got some shredded cheese here. We're going to put half into the mixture, and we're going to put half on top with our fried onion toppers. So we want to get this all mixed in. One of the things that I was really shooting for when I was reducing this is to get some of that liquid from the chicken stock evaporated. You want to concentrate that flavor, but you don't want too much liquid in here. You want a nice, thick, and creamy base. I'm just folding that in ever so carefully. So we've got a full pan here, friends. We have a very full pan. Good thing we're going to combine this in a big old casserole dish in just a minute. All right, fold it together. Try not to let anybody jump overboard. Okay. Now, like I said, I've got about 8 ounces of cheese. 4 is going to go in and 4 is going to go on top with our topper in a little while. But we just want to incorporate some of that yummy cheese. I have a mix of Monterey Jack and cheddar Jack here, but use whatever you have on hand if you've got cheddar. I just love the Monterey Jack or the Jack cheeses because they have that really nice cheese pull to them. And you kind of expect that when you get something Southwest or Tex-Mex, almost like you would in a quesadilla. Got to get that yummy cheesy layer. Fun fact, if you love cheese dip at Mexican restaurants, that's Monterey Jack cheese. In American Mexican restaurants, that's usually what's being used. I learned that by asking. Some things you just got to ask to know. The same way I learned how to make authentic fried rice. I just had to ask an authority, and I learned that way. Okay, now this is ready. We're just waiting on our pasta to cook for a few more minutes, and then we're going to assemble. It'll be done in no time. I'll see you right back in just a minute, y'all. I'm so glad y'all are hanging out with me today. If you have a teenager who's interested in cooking classes, you can always sign them up to take classes with me in Mama Whitten's kitchen. I put the link in the description so you can go grab it down there. I teach live classes every week, but there's also a huge library of lessons that they can take on their own time. I'll see you in the kitchen. Okay, let's get this assembled. The first thing I need to do is drain my pasta. It's been going for about 5 minutes and it's good and tender, but not completely done. So I'm just going to get it drained. Got a little bite left to it. And it's going to finish cooking in our casserole. And that's the beauty of the casserole method, because when the pasta finishes cooking in the sauce, it has a lot more flavor. So first thing I need to do is get my casserole dish grease. You can rub it with some butter or just spray it with some cooking spray. Don't forget this step because that'll make it a lot easier to get out when it's time to eat. Okay, then I'm going to grab my pasta and get it into the pan. Now, if we needed some more liquid in our sauce, I would have kept some pasta water, about a cup of that, but I can already tell we've got enough moisture here. It's always a good idea, though, if you think that you're not going to have enough moisture in your saucy mix, to go ahead and get a scoop or get a cup and get out some pasta water in case you need some more liquid. Or you can also keep your chicken stock on hand. All right, I'm going to go over with this big pan of sauce over our noodles, and then I'm going to stir it around and make sure it's all incorporated. All right, this is a heavy guy. I'm going to do it one fell swoop. Let's get a hot pad here just to help me. Ugh, this is my workout. This is where I get my muscle action in. I'm going to need a spoon for that. Woo! If anybody needs to know whether I have a workout regimen, they just need to follow me on YouTube. You'll find out real quick. My workout regimen is right here in the kitchen. Heavy pots and pans. That and chasing kiddos. All right, yummy, yummy, yummy. Now I'm going to go ahead and mix this up just a little bit. I just want to make sure all the noodles are covered in all the sauce. We don't have to do a lot of work here, but you just want to get it all mixed together. Kind of nestle it down into the pan with the noodles. Yummy, yummy. Now the topping for this is onions, the French onions like you would use for green bean casserole. But I have found that if you crumble them up, they kind of do a better job seasoning the casserole itself instead of just being like an accompaniment on top. So I like to crush them up in my hands and sprinkle them over like almost like a seasoning, if you will. And that's the secret to doing this the most flavorful way. I always like to treat the crust on top like a really good ingredient in itself. Like if I'm making something that's Italian, I treat the top like I would make garlic bread. So I put some herb and some garlic and some salt on top of my cheese. So that's just what I usually do for a cheesy layer. Okay, I've got a little bit more cheese, and the cheese combined with the onions is what's going to make the topping of this so yummy. We also have our oven at 400 degrees, so it's been waiting on us and ready to go. It actually sings a song to me when it's all ready to go. So it just sang that song to me a minute ago. All right, so I'm going to get about, I'm going to say at least a cup of these fried onions, and I'm going to crush them in my hand as I put them over the top. You could absolutely put this in a Ziploc bag and crush it up with a mallet if you want to, but I'm just going to crush it. And like I said, crushing it like this just tends to make it have more flavor in the dish, I feel like. It may just be in my mind. But I definitely noticed a difference when I do it like this. Another little bit, a handful. And this is going to cook in no time because everything in here is cooked. So we're just going to go for a brown bubbly top and melty cheese, and that's all you need. So like I said, 400-degree oven, bake for about 10 minutes and we'll be in business. Just watch that top because the top will get burned with those onions if you let it go too long. You'll need to cover it if you're going to let it go for longer than that, okay? Here we go. Now, I love teaching dishes like this. Comfort foods is what my teenagers love the most in Mama Whitten's kitchen. I always put the link below so you can go ahead and check that out, but I also link a few other things that would help you out down there. I have a Pantry Staple guide, which is a free guide to teach you how to shop smart and stock your pantry so you know what you always need to have on hand to really be able to pull off these shortcut suppers easily. And I also put my shortcut supper digital cookbook down there because sometimes you don't have time to watch a whole episode of YouTube on the TV and all you need is a quick help from me. That digital cookbook is going to help you out. It's my 15 most popular shortcut suppers in there. So the link for that's down below. Also my casserole dish and my knife. I told you that knife was going to be down there. Those links are in the description. I'll be right back to show you how this one comes out of the oven, y'all. It smells amazing in here, so it's time to get our casserole out of the oven. It's been about 10 minutes, and the top is just a little bit brown and bubbly. Like I said, everything was already nice and hot in there. We just had to get that crust going. Come here, big guy. Look at that. Now, it's going to be hot, but I'm going to have to taste it. Sneak me a tiny taste without anybody knowing. See if I can do it. I mean, I am the chef. I do have to taste test first before I serve it to anybody. Look at that. Telling you, y'all, there's never enough chicken casserole recipes in your repertoire. You could be a million different things, something new every night. All right, I'm going to blow it and I'm going to go in. I'm not going to stall too long because I can't wait. Mm. Mm. That's the comforting kind of dish that lets you know Jesus loves you. And he does. Oh, goodness. Y'all, go make this one. Put it in your lineup. You're going to absolutely love it. Your family's going to love it. This could even replace taco night. It's got those great flavors. I'll see y'all next time in the kitchen. Happy cooking, y'all.